The death toll in Kenya tax protests has risen to at least 23. Over 300 people have been injured in the violence that spurred because of a finance bill that the Kenyan government proposed for the year 2024-25. So what is a finance bill? A finance bill is usually presented to Parliament before the start of a financial year that runs from July to June, laying out the government's fiscal plans. In the 2024-25 bill, the Kenyan government aimed to raise $2.7 billion in additional taxes to reduce the budget deficit and state borrowing. Kenya's public debt stands at 68% of GDP, higher than the 55% of GDP recommended by the World Bank and the International Monetary Fund. Grappling with acute liquidity challenges amid uncertainty over its ability to access capital from financial markets, Kenya has turned to the IMF, which has urged the government to meet revenue targets to access more funding. Protesters wanted the government to abandon the planned tax hikes, which they argue will choke the economy and raise the cost of living for Kenyans who are already struggling to make ends meet. But this was not the first time a finance bill has met with resistance from some citizens. The government of President William Ruto, who was elected in 2022 on a pledge to uplift lives of the poor, last year used the bill to introduce a housing tax and to raise the top personal income tax rate, sparking anger, street protests and court challenges. This time, the proposed measures that have triggered protests include new levies on basic commodities like bread, vegetable oil and sugar, and a new motor vehicle circulation tax pegged at 2.5% of the value of a car to be paid annually. An eco-levy on most manufactured goods, including sanitary towels and diapers, were also on the cards. In addition to the new taxes, the bill proposed increasing existing taxes on financial transactions. The government has said the tax measures are necessary to fund development programs and cut public debt. Last week, the government softened its position a little, with Ruto endorsing recommendations to scrap some of the new levies, including on car ownership, bread and the eco-levy on locally manufactured goods. The Finance Ministry said such concessions would blow a 200 billion Kenyan shilling, which is $1.56 billion hole in the 2024-25 budget and necessitate spending cuts. Protesters and opposition parties said the concessions are not enough and want the whole bill abandoned. After Tuesday's parliament session, William Ruto declined to sign the contentious finance bill that lawmakers voted to pass. In his speech, Ruto said, "I run a government, but I also lead people, and the people have spoken."